tree. The last tree.
There's a big misconception that someone is born to do a specific thing.
Yes, it can be a good help to listen to people around you whenever you're in doubt. At the end of the day, it's your voice that matters the most. Who you are is up for you to decide.
Now for the fun and frustrating bit, testing things out.
When I asked if you would be, would you be my Valentine?
In the beginning, you should definitely try to test out things that comes to interest. Is this something you potentially could do in the long run? If yes, do it. Try it out, give it a chance. Eventually you will find out if it's a fit or not anyway.
I grew up doing a lot of sports and naturally gravitated towards football, since that was what everybody was doing back then. It was fun, and that's probably why I was working super hard to become the best that I could be. But I slowly started to realize that I wasn't doing it for myself. It wasn't until I discovered the beauty of arts and creativity that I finally felt the feeling of doing something for my own sake. I remember drawing a lot when I was a child, creating your own world with your own characters, only to relive them in your bed afterwards. Everything in my own imagination. I think that is why I find dance so intriguing as well. It's like your body is your vessel and you can create all of these unique movements. Everything is in your control. And every body is different. That's why there's also billions of possibilities with your body. But what I quickly realized was that I sucked. I was stiff, I was tall, I was skinny, you know, all of the cons of being a dancer. It's harder to control a long, thin body than it is to control like a more compact one, you know? But what I did have was determination. I wanted to become great, even though I wasn't. I wasn't even near good. So I started to take dance classes, a lot of them, just to prove to myself that I can do this, you know? This is the first time that I ever felt that I was doing something for myself, and I started at the bottom. So it was no other way than upwards from here. And that was kind of like a relief, because you could try everything and there's no such thing as failing when you're already at the bottom, you know? Choreographing was something that I really identify with later on in my dance journey. Choreographing a routine and then finding a visually pleasing way to film it. And that was also my introduction into directing, when I started to try and film my own dance videos, you know? And that sparked a question. How could I blend my movements into my visuals? And how could my visuals even enhance my movement? That was something that was really intriguing. I started to dig deeper into the visuals and watch a lot of movies, only to get a better understanding of storytelling. And it was like I was falling in love all over again, you know? When I started to watch all of these movies from these great directors, it opened so many doors for me. And I realized so much that this world of cinema is a big, big world to discover. And I love to learn. I love to absorb a lot of knowledge. So I knew that this world was something I really wanted to enter. And that's why I started to do a lot of work just trying to understand and build my visual vocabulary, you know? I think there's just some moments in your life that you know when something is truly special. And this one, for me, was one of them.
Makes sense. Ever since I was a young kid, I remember loving reading books, and I did so all the time basically. I just love the idea of creating a whole new universe on paper and kind of just living through that. I actually continued writing novels for a while until I discovered something new: how clothing affected how I perceived myself. I remember being made fun of for how I dressed myself, but I do not have any memories of me being embarrassed about it. And that's the one thing I think I had confidence in as a child. I was never afraid of the choices that I used to make, but there's one thing that did scare me, and that was actually making choices. Through middle school, my main focuses were on writing and doing fashion. That was basically what my world revolved around at that time. And then I started high school. And this is where things became really tricky because I loved writing and I also loved the idea of working within the fashion industry. But what is it that I identified the most with? I didn't really know at that time. But there's one thing I did know, and it was that both of these things had one thing in common, and it was creating. My interest of creating only grew bigger and bigger, but my fear of making choices is basically what held me back all this time. I knew I wanted to create ideas and concepts for myself, but that also meant that I had to go and face my fears. I had to make a decision to stay as I am or to work hard towards becoming proud of the person I was going to be in the future. So I finally mustered up the courage to work hard towards becoming a creative director and to face my fear daily, because that's a part of being a creative director. You have to make choices, you have to know what you want. So that's something that I'm still facing till this day. Creating something from scratch, planning out scenes, and working with other creatives became my biggest passion, and this is where I stand today.
Ogu.
Ay, dan beruntung kami.
It's not always easy to navigate, even though you now know what you like to do. For me, I've had the longest time trying to define what I really am. Am I a dancer or am I a director? I think the main factor for me was, am I going to be behind the camera or am I going to be in front of the camera? Whenever I'm required in front of the camera, there's always something that holds me back from fully go all out. And I mean that in a performance-wise, when I dance especially. Maybe that's because of my comfort behind the camera, having the control by directing it, rather than now being in front of the camera and now having to be directed by someone else and being out of control. I mean, in many ways, both roles have benefited each other. My director style has heavily been impacted by my understanding of movement, and my dancing has heavily been improved by me trying to get a better understanding of the visuals, because I now can control more of the angles and enhance my movement even more within the frames. At the end of the day, I don't think you need to choose. For me, I will always recognize myself as both, because that's what makes me special. A dancer director or a director that knows how to dance.
I've been through so many stages in my life, and it's been pretty confusing. It still is, and it probably will be in the future as well. There's nothing wrong with that, because after all, we are humans, and that's just in our nature. I feel like all of the different stages I've been through in my life has basically led me up to where I am today, and I do believe that everything happens for a reason. Writing and reading stimulated my brain from an early age, and I feel like my creativity basically stems from that. Being able to create a whole universe, whether it's on paper or it's on your computer or it's just in your mind, it's something that I've always loved, and I probably will always love that as well. My identity within writing and fashion is something I still hold very dearly. And these two things combined with my life experiences is what I feel like led me to creative direction. I feel like I was always meant to challenge myself, and I feel like I really went through that. I want to show myself what I'm able to create, and I also want to share that journey together with you. Every experience that we have throughout our lives is what makes each and every one of us special. No one is just like me, just as no one is just like you.
So what makes you special?
Simply being yourself.
Boom.
Mic drop.